Wow, I just got back from seeing the Backrooms. I wanted to understand them, and I bet you do too. So this is a long one, it's meaty, but stick with me. And not only will we discuss if the Backrooms 2026 film works, but we'll see how it's inspired by The Matrix, how it inspired new trends like mall world, and its connection to absurdism. Oh, and most exciting for me, it helped me develop my own theory on how the Backrooms universe actually works. So let's get into it. Long story short, does the Backrooms work? Yes, you just might have to sit with it. So apparently a lot of people out there go to a place in their dreams called Mall World. We're starting to have a bit of a collective experience with it. Either that we really are all going to the same place when we dream, or maybe that like the structure of a mall is somehow implicitly a part of our brain. Pretty crazy, right? But I get it. I get it because I have a similar dream. I don't go to a mall world. In my dreams, I go to the first house in my family that was split level. And my granddad went from amazing multi-level home to amazing multi-level home, some of which overlooking like a vista, if you can imagine that one of those exists in Iowa. So not only a split level home, but also like a connection and almost like a flowing out into nature. So when I dream, I'm always in this never-ending level home, the basement of which opens up directly onto a beach with no walls. Also in the basement is an amazing set of futuristic showers, which give you the best shower that you've ever had in your life. They're almost like little pods that you can get in. I've been to those many times in my dreams. Always a pool, always a hot tub, always many stairs, always modern architecture. That's stuck in my head. Something about the memory of that space is something my dreams need. And if you really want to break it down, what does the brain really do? In acting, sometimes we talk about how the brain really only has one function, and that's to move your body. All other complications that we develop inside of our head around our movement are what we call society. But the only thing our brain has to do to survive is move our body in the right way. There are even memorization techniques that have to do with being in the right place at the right time to remember the right thing. But experiences like Mall World in our dreams can be based on the fact that large spaces like malls are no longer in use and laying dormant more and more. A space that once had an intention for which it no longer functions. We can also know liminal space from architectural choices that cue you into the fact that you are not where you're supposed to be. Like being behind the stacks in a Walmart. More and more, architecture and urban design is trying to make choices that communicate you're not supposed to be here. So now let's talk about dreams. There are theories that our brain gives us experiences in our dreams so that if we face those same experiences in our real life, they might not be so bad. Like why my teeth are always falling out in my dreams for some reason. Or why maybe if you dream about getting attacked by a bear, you might be a little bit more likely to run from one if you see one in real life. To me, that is more than interesting, but another theory that recently knocked my socks off was this.
You might have figured out the reason why we dream. Remember I mentioned earlier that if you go blind, the visual cortex at the back of the brain gets taken over by hearing and by touch and by other things. Well, what we realized is that the visual part of your brain is at a disadvantage. The purpose of dreaming is to defend the visual territory from takeover from the other senses.
Dreams are a preventative measure. Dreams are a war going on in your brain. So let's talk about the movie. Only watch this if you've seen the movie, okay? The studio in charge of the film, A24, is a clever little girl because not only does liminal horror have an undeniable chokehold over pop culture, but they knew the best way to participate in that cinematically was to get a creator from the source. Kane Parsons, many times in interviews was asked, is this directly linked to your series that you made on YouTube? And over he said, no, it's not a continuation. Another series you may have heard of that has to do with stepping from one reality into another is called The Matrix. And in that movie, you may remember this character.
Concurrently, while your first question may be the most pertinent, you may or may not realize it is also the most irrelevant.
And what was that character's name? The Architect. Yeah, some of you got it. Some of you got that. This is the character that helps us understand how the Matrix recreates itself every time, and how I guess Colonel Sanders is in charge of all of that. So when designing a new, fresh narrative to bring the Backrooms to the silver screen, filmmakers wanted to make sure that they had something gritty for the audience to latch onto. A story of alcoholism, abuse, loss, but also unmistakably told from the perspective of a failed architect. And that level of pain, that level of grief, that might be just the thing a person would need to want to escape to a place, even like the Backrooms. So the movie starts by putting excellent pieces in place, a sort of anti-hero that you only want to know more about, and a therapist who's trying to help him see things from a new perspective. Not long after we dive in, we start to understand that the Backrooms are constructed memories, which begs the question, whose memories? So, the first person to go into the Backrooms is Clark. He sees furniture explicitly from the furniture store. We don't see any other type of architecture or anomalies until Bobby goes past the place that Clark had gone before. And what does he see? The t-shirt he was wearing earlier. That's right, the t-shirt that he was wearing earlier. At this point, we can start to see that the rooms generate based on the people who are entering into them, which raises the argument that the Backrooms is a collective subconscious, a place where everybody's individual dreams construct a reality. But by the end, and again, this is the worst spoiler you could stick around for if you haven't seen the movie yet, but by the end we see that the Backrooms contain an anomalous copy of Mary, who thought she may have escaped. It's not until Phil's line in her interrogation, where he says, "How did you get here?" that we start to understand there may be no escape. The entire universe that we've been watching may have been contained in the Backrooms the whole time. So by the end of this movie, it's pretty unmistakable that it's not trying to do things that normal horror movies do. It is cerebral, it is absurdist, and it is throwing the horror playbook right out the window. The protagonist becomes the monster, and we get backstory for Mary about halfway through the film when she seems to take over the protagonist role. This exchange is avant-garde, but so too is the psychotherapy that Mary puts Clark through in their sessions. Not only is that a deeply theatrical moment, but it's the only dialogue in the film that is repeated. And that, my friends, is like a canary in a coal mine for fans of absurdism. The genre that does not care how an audience responds to it as long as it walks away knowing some of the absurdity that they have to live with in day-to-day life. And if you like the sound of that, read some Samuel Beckett and call me in the morning if you can get out of bed. There are precious few examples of absurdism in film, like Under the Silver Lake from 2018, or Toys with Robin Williams from 1992. Why am I saying this? Because as I was walking out of the theater, I heard some people saying, it didn't make sense. Yeah, maybe not like now. Well, I'm here to say that a major feature film based on an ARG, that's augmented reality game, probably shouldn't be something that's easy to figure out. And just like any great piece of absurdism, maybe it's possible that it was supposed to wash over you at first, meaning that early critiques can become an insult to the critic. And of course, one of the last major narrative nuggets once Mary starts to become dubious that Phil is trying to help her is that other portals than Clark's have been opening up around the world, potentially leading to a sequel, but also hinting at Phil's potential obsession with the Backrooms. So are they Phil's memories? It's important to remember that Phil saw all of these characters on film before he meets them. There are a lot of great theories for whose memories these could be, and Phil is at the top of the list. But there's one more theory that breaks down some walls. Before anything that I've mentioned so far happens, we see production logos. But not just in any style, seemingly in a late 80s, early 90s CRTV rendered style. And after some found footage, a TV turns off and we see Phil. But at the end of the film, we learned that the facility from which he's researching may also be in the Backrooms. While Phil seems like the most likely connection to any of the pre-existing Backrooms content, we have confirmation from Kane Parsons that he's not. This serves, and it serves as a badass motif, as if to say, we are the architects of our own misery. But more than that, the memories that these characters are reliving do not belong to anybody in the film. These characters are living in the audience's pre-existing memories of the Backrooms. At first, our memories fuel familiar-looking places, familiar-looking wallpaper, but as we get to know the characters, we remember the Backrooms through their eyes as it constructs itself for us. This could even be the reason that there is no "the" in the title. It is the concept of the Backrooms represented in a film. Because this film could not exist without the amazing universe that came before it, and something fresh had to be done to bring it to the big screen. Kane Parsons found a great balance between serving an ARG community and introducing people to a new and exciting world, while inspiring conversations about horror structure, but also making a very salient point. All of us already live in a world where we're the architects of our own misery. Let's just hope. Work together. Maybe a little bit of inspired conversation might be all it takes to break down some of those walls. Oh, and what happened to Kat?